They're here in the United States. They just wrapped up a second day of talks at the State Department. This as Iran-backed Hezbollah says it fired a rocket salvo on Israeli troops in northern Israel. Lebanese officials say Israeli drones struck 10 vehicles today south of Beirut. This actually marks the closest an Israeli strike has come to Lebanon's capital since the U.S. asked Israel to stop targeting Hezbollah operating out of the capital city. Iran says it will not agree to any U.S. deal with the United States to extend the ceasefire if Israel does not halt its attacks on the terror group Hezbollah. On Monday, President Trump had a, shall we say, spirited phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about Israel's operations in Lebanon. President Trump elaborated on that call during a podcast he was on today.
Axios reported that you had a phone call with Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, in which you were angry with him. You said, "Are you effing crazy? What are you effing doing? I helped you stay out of jail." Is that true? Did you speak to him in those terms?
I did. I wouldn't say angry. I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon.
For his part, Netanyahu insisting today there is no shift in his relationship with President Trump. Joining me now, one of the most influential people in the complex web of Middle East affairs. He serves as a key liaison and advisor to many a president, many a prime minister and diplomat from the U.S., Israel, and across the globe. Malcolm Hoenlein is the Conference of Presidents Emeritus. Welcome. It's good to have you back. Malcolm, where do you view the relationship with the U.S. and Israel, especially when the president just made it very clear he needs Israel to halt the fighting with Lebanon at the moment so that we can figure something out between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's a very complex moment. It is indeed natural that two leaders will have differences, and the president is known often to give colorful expression to some of his views, but that the fundamentals between Israel and the United States remain constant. We have to think, though, what is the impact on the countries in the region, and particularly what's the impact on Iran? The fact that Hezbollah can continue to function, that Hamas continues to function, if that's the outcome of this war, it will set us back in the region. And I can tell you that every Arab leader that I speak to tells us, decimate them, don't leave any of them standing. They're a cancer. They metastasize in the region. Israel took targeted cars out because there are leaders who are engaging in the movement of weapons, who are engaging in terrorism against Israeli civilians, not Israeli troops. They fire at the communities in the north. It's not something no country can put up with. The Iranians will exploit it because they don't want to deal. They don't want to negotiate, not with the United States, not with Israel. And we have to make sure that the message is clear, that we're going to be resolute. And even CENTCOM, the United States' Central Command, has urged that we have 2 more weeks of fighting to take out the targets that remain and not allow Iran to emerge from this and declare itself victorious in the battle. It will be a setback for everything the United States cares about in the region. The U.S. and Israel are aligned no matter what words may be exchanged, but we have to think about the impact. We have to show a united front to our common enemies in the area.
Will Israel comply with what President Trump says is very important? He says you've got to stop for the moment because this is jeopardizing what Iran has demanded just to get some type of deal. So where does Benjamin Netanyahu's mind go to? He has to do what he has to do, and that is protect Israel and make sure that on October 7th never happens again. And he has to hold up to what he had promised, which was we have to get rid of Hezbollah and Hamas, which they haven't yet done either.
Right, and to contain Iran's nuclear ambitions, its missile capacity, ballistic missile capacity, which threatens the United States, threatens all of our allies, and we see them attacking Qatar, UAE, other Arab countries in the region. This is a cancerous movement. They are driven by a radical ideology that you can't rationalize with. You cannot have normal discussions with them. So I think it's really important that we understand what is at stake in the talks here and in the region. so much the future of the region, peace in the region. Netanyahu every day has to report to a family that their loved one was killed on the border inside Israel, on the border of Israel, by the drones that the Hezbollah. Would any country allow this to continue? Would they allow them to build 10-mile-long tunnels along the border of Israel to smuggle weapons, to store missiles? It would never happen. So we have to understand, Israel's a small country facing enemies on many sides. They have done miraculous things in the 12-day war and now together with the United States. And it's only when they work together that we can overcome it. And I think there has to be an understanding. You can't give carte blanche. If they say Israel can't strike, you will see Hezbollah move more and more weapons into the region, threaten American troops, threaten our allies and Israel.
We see missiles flying not just across the Lebanon border with Israel, but we also see it in Iran, near Iran. What's going on right now, overnight we had missile strikes, Iran launched drone strikes, and this amid a ceasefire. Both sides are firing missiles, U.S. and Iran. My question is, how do you have a ceasefire when there is actual firing?
So it's essential because we know what the enemy is doing, what their plans are, how they are using these opportunities to build up their capacity to attack American troops. They're firing at Kuwait to hit American bases, just as they did in Qatar, as they did in the UAE. And America is the great Satan. Israel's the little Satan. They want to drive America out of the region. They want to get a deal that enables them to emerge and say, we won, we put down the great Satan. Well, we cannot allow that to happen, and Israel can't allow it to happen, nor do any countries in the region want it to happen.
Malcolm, President Trump also said on this podcast something that I'd really like your response to, and it involves, he was asked on Pod Force One, the podcast, whether he'd like to meet the current leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and here's what he said.
Yeah, I'd like to meet him. I'd like to meet everybody. I'd like to meet him. We probably will meet at some point, depending on how it all works out.
Of course, this Ayatollah is the son of the Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed in an airstrike by the Israelis, and everybody was cheering that one on. You know, your Arab friends that you talk to who say decimate Iran. And of course, is this really regime change? And how do you feel about a one-on-one between the president and the new Ayatollah?
Nobody has actually met with the new Ayatollah, the son of the former Grand Ayatollah. He's considered more extreme, less experienced, maybe even more irresponsible. I had some exchanges, one of the few Americans, indirect, not direct, in months past. And
really?
The president thinks he can negotiate. He is a super salesman. We know that. But these guys have been bazaris for 2,000 years. They know how to negotiate, and they, as I told one Secretary of State, they said, when you sit down to negotiate, they'll have your pants off before you're even sitting, because that's what they do. They are excellent at it. And what we have to understand, they only understand one language, and that's strength. They only understand that if we show a real total commitment and that we will pursue our goals in the same ferocity that they are assuming their goals, sacrificing the interests of their people. They have no electricity, no water. The economy is in collapse, and yet they don't care because they devote the money to weapons and to continuing these the wars of aggression and supporting these proxy terrorist entities. So saying that you want to sit down with somebody is fine. But you have to understand what are the consequences. What's the message to other leaders? Do we want to see them all sitting down and negotiating with Iran at this point? I don't think so.
Malcolm Hoenlein, you have a direct line to so many leaders. Please keep us posted on what you hear. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you.